Look at this side, not this side.
Okay.
Okay. So when you're looking at it like this, again, you have to have a way to tell left from right. Okay, so to do that, you look at the outer wall, because the inner wall is the interventricular septum. Okay, so these outer walls are going to tell you the thin side is the right ventricle, the thick side is the left ventricle. Okay, so this space is the right ventricle, this space is the left ventricle. Okay. Now let's just do the right ventricle first. Okay. So if I open up the right ventricle, okay, right here, this is actually the right. This is the right atrium up here. You guys made a cut so that you can actually see it really well. This is the right atrium. This is the right ventricle. Okay. Notice that there's this flap of tissue with little strings attached to it between them. So atrium, ventricle, we've got this flap of tissue between them. Okay. So this is going to be the right AV valve, or the tricuspid valve. Now you can sort of see the three flaps. You've got one there, and then one here. So that's why it's called tricuspid. It has three flaps of tissue. Okay. Now the little strings attached to the tricuspid valve, those are the chordae tendineae. Okay, any of those little strings that you see. Okay, there's some right there too. Okay, and so any of the bumps that those strings are attached to in the wall, so you see one here that you cut through, you see a teeny one right there. Okay, those are papillary muscles. On the right side, they're very small. Okay, now the right ventricle, when it pumps blood, when it squeezes blood, it's going to squeeze blood up into the pulmonary trunk here. Okay, so if I open it up, you can see the connection there. So right ventricle here, pulmonary trunk there. Now, if your blood going up into the pulmonary trunk, if you try to come back down again, you're going to get caught. Okay, this structure right here is the pulmonary semilunar valve, the valve that prevents backflow from pulmonary trunk to right ventricle. So you have one flap of tissue, two flaps of tissue, and then there's a third right in the fold right there that's hard to see.
All three are pulmonary.
So both semilunar valves have three flaps of tissue. It's the AV valves where they'll be different. But the semilunar valves, aortic and pulmonary, both of them should have three flaps. Okay? So then let's look at the left side here. Remember this thick wall, this is the left ventricle. Okay? So this guy right here, okay, and if we look at the other side, you see a second flap of tissue on the other side. So you cut right between them. Okay, that's the left AV valve, or the bicuspid valve, because there's only two flaps. Okay, now again, the AV valves have the chordae tendineae attached to them. The chordae tendineae lead you to a bump in the wall. That's the papillary muscle. Look at how much bigger the papillary muscle is on the left side than on the right side. Okay, so this whole thing is a papillary muscle. Huge bump. Okay. Now the left ventricle is going to force blood upwards, okay, into the aorta. So if I put my probe through there, you can see it connects to the aorta right there. Okay. So right at that spot, you should have a valve, flaps of tissue that will catch the blood. Okay, so if you guys want, you might want to cut a little bit more right here. Maybe I can just go like this so that we can open it. Okay, so that's going to be where the aorta is. Okay, so I cut through one of them right there. There's another one right there. See these flaps of tissue? That's the aortic semilunar valve. Okay, that one for sure is like the hardest to see, because it's right in the middle.
Aortic
semilunar valve. Between the aorta up here and the left ventricle down here.
And the pulmonary valve was, what was that?
Between the right ventricle and the pulmonary trunk. That one's much easier right there. Okay?